What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus check update, the debt limit ceiling, which the government and the United States and the economy will literally default and run out of money sometime in mid-October. Around October 18th is the latest estimate. That's right, the government and the United States economy will literally run out of money, the US government. The latest estimate is October 18th, says Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, if they can't raise the debt limit ceiling and come to an agreement in Congress, or if the Democrats can't raise it on their own. I have a major announcement on that from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. We also have a major announcement from Senator Joe Manchin on the $3.5 trillion stimulus package, on a stimulus package update for you guys, as well as an infrastructure package update, which is supposed to be voted on tomorrow, and a government shutdown, which is going to happen tomorrow at midnight. If they can't come to an agreement on that, the government will shut down tomorrow. My This is a lot going on here in our country. Government shutdown tomorrow at midnight if they don't come to an agreement on that. A government default, which will be the first time ever in the history of our country, over 200 years. The government will literally default. We do not want that to happen. That is the worst case scenario for our country. Social Security payments could be at risk. Payments to the military could be at risk. Payments to anything coming from the United States government could be at risk if they don't raise the debt limit ceiling, because the government will literally run out of money. The United States government is currently using a reserve fund of $450 billion that they have been whittling away at since August 1st. And Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says, as you can see here, Congress must raise the debt limit by October 18th, or else the government will literally run out of money around or by this date. This is an estimate. It does not mean it can't happen earlier or can't happen later. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warns in the newest letter as the government default looms. Yeah, so this is a very big deal. And yes, Social Security payments could be greatly impacted if the debt ceiling is not raised. This is an article directly from Yahoo Finance. Here it is in black and white. I'd like to show you guys this in from credible news sources. We've seen Senator Bernie Sanders say this. We've seen Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer say this. If you've been watching the show, you've heard it directly from them. I like to show you this on the screen so that you know this is true. It's not just hearsay. And all this could happen by October 18th. So it's not something that's going to happen now, but by October 18th or around there, if we don't come to an agreement to raise the debt limit ceiling, then all these things and the American economy, the stock market, 401ks, pension, and the entire economy could be at risk. Now, here's what Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has to say here today. Check this out. Chuck Schumer says that the Democrats cannot and will not raise the debt limit ceiling through reconciliation. This is major, major news. Let me repeat this. The Democrats cannot and will not raise the debt limit ceiling through reconciliation. Now, this is how the Republicans are trying to force the Democrats to do this. He's saying the Democrats cannot do this through reconciliation, and they will not do it through reconciliation. Here's Chuck Schumer saying this directly himself.
Now, in solving this crisis, this body cannot and will not go through a drawn-out, unpredictable process sought by the minority leader. It risks the full faith and credit of the United States. To do this through reconciliation requires ping-ponging separate bills back from the Senate and the House. It's uncharted waters.
Now, here's the deal. First of all, the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer saying that the Democrats cannot. First of all, him saying they cannot do it kind of means. First of all, him saying they cannot do it is maybe a little bit misleading because they can do it through the reconciliation process. But what I think he's saying is that they cannot do it in time. We have a lot of Democrats coming out and saying that they can't pass the reconciliation process, the stimulus package, in time with the debt limit ceiling, or maybe they're refusing to do it. It's unclear when him saying they cannot do it and they will not do it. Maybe they're refusing to do it at the behest of the Republicans. But the Democrats are saying they're willing to pass the debt limit ceiling on their own without any Republican votes. And they tried to do this last night. Um, what they tried to do is they tried to pass the debt limit ceiling in the Senate through unanimous consent without any Republican votes, which is kind of a way around the filibuster. I know this might get a little bit confusing. I'll try to just explain this the easiest way possible. But they tried to do another standalone vote in the Senate to raise the debt limit ceiling, and the Republicans blocked it. So what they tried to do is they tried to pass the debt limit ceiling with just 50 to 51 votes. Um, and with unanimous consent, which means if the Republicans would allow it, they could simply raise the debt limit ceiling with just 50 to 51 votes, which means the Republicans would not have to vote to raise the debt limit ceiling. And then the Democrats can do this, and all this would be over. But the Republicans and Mitch McConnell did not agree to it. But we do need to raise the debt limit ceiling just to pay for all the past debts. And Mitch McConnell has himself said we have to raise the debt limit ceiling to prevent a government default, which is a catastrophic thing we have to avoid. Even Mitch McConnell has said this. But I think Mitch McConnell and the Republicans want them to do it through the reconciliation process. But Democrats are saying they might not have time to do this. Meanwhile, the full faith and credit of the United States, the economy, and the entire government is at risk because if the US government defaults on its debt obligations and interest obligations and tells the world they can't pay its interest, can't pay its debt obligations, and literally potentially has to tell the world that it has run out of money and can't pay its debt, we have a serious problem. Can't make this stuff up, guys. So the Democrats are now saying to the Republicans, listen, just let us pass the bill to raise the debt limit ceiling. We will do it on our own with just Democratic votes. You don't even have to vote for it. Just allow us the unanimous consent. But the Republicans even refuse that. Republicans want them to do it through the reconciliation process. The problem with that is it's a long, drawn out process which could potentially take weeks. Problem is that we really that is the amount of time that we have left until we hit the debt limit ceiling. So I'm at a loss for words because we have this political cat and mouse game between the Democrats and the Republicans, and yet the full faith and credit of the United States government, the economy, the American people, Social Security payments, the stock market, interest, bonds, the US government, the economy, everything is at risk. Yeah. In fact, the House of Representatives actually just passed a standalone bill to raise the debt limit ceiling today. This is another bill passed by the House, but again, this bill is doomed in the Senate. It seems like the Democrats are trying to do this. Is another bill that was just passed today on Wednesday. You can see here the House on Wednesday passed a bill that would suspend the U.S. debt ceiling. The Democrats are trying to do everything they can, being blocked by the Republicans every step of the way. I don't think that's an opinion. You can let me know your thoughts. Again, I always try to be down the middle here. They are being blocked by the Republicans. And again, I'm an independent. I'm not trying to choose sides here. But the Republicans are trying to force them to do it through the reconciliation process to try to do it kind of as painfully as possible. Um, I just don't know if they're going to be able to get it done in time before the country defaults through the reconciliation process, which is how they're trying to pass the stimulus package. Okay, meanwhile, let's move on because we got a lot to cover here. The infrastructure bill is supposed to be voted on tomorrow, but the Progressive Caucus, the Democratic Progressive Caucus, is saying no infrastructure bill without the reconciliation bill, which is the stimulus package. And honestly, I think that the infrastructure bill is going to fail tomorrow. The physical infrastructure package. I think if they put it to a vote, I think it's going to fail tomorrow. Just a kind of a thought. I just don't know if there's going to be enough votes tomorrow. I think it might be smarter for the Democratic Party to delay the bill unless it fails. If it fails, they can vote on it later on down the road. I think it's probably going to fail tomorrow. We have Republicans that are going to vote no on it, Democrats that are going to vote no on it. There's going to be some Republicans that vote yes, although not very many. And there's going to be some Democrats that vote yes on it. I just don't know if it's going to pass tomorrow. We have a lot of progressive Democrats that are saying they're not going to vote yes on this physical infrastructure package until the stimulus package is passed. But they may have to put it to a vote tomorrow just to satisfy the moderate Democrats to just put it to a vote, see if it passes. If it doesn't pass, at least they satisfied them and said, okay, well, they put it to a vote. There wasn't enough votes to pass it. Now they know that they have to pass the stimulus package first. But the problem with that is that if it doesn't passes, it could further divide the Democratic Party, and then the stimulus package could fall apart. Because you got to remember that the stimulus package is hanging on by a thread. We actually just had former President Obama. We actually haven't heard a lot from him. We hear a lot more from former President Donald Trump than we hear from former President Obama or any other former presidents. We hear former President Donald Trump in the news like every day, more than we hear former President anybody else. But former President Obama actually was just gave a huge interview saying, we got to pass this next stimulus package. We got to pass it now. It's really needed by the people. Huge push by former President Obama to pass this next stimulus package. So he was actually in the news saying, pass this next stimulus package right away. We got to do it right away. So that was actually some really big news that came out. But the problem is that if the Democrats put this infrastructure package to a vote and it fails, we really run the risk of this stimulus package dividing the Democratic Party. Because remember, not a single Republican is going to vote for this next stimulus package. And again, that's not an opinion. It's just there's not a single Republican that's going to vote for this next stimulus package. Remember, not a single Republican voted for the third stimulus check package, that $1,400 stimulus check that went out to Americans, those child tax credits, those monthly checks, those $3,000 to $3,600 child tax credits, and the $1,400 stimulus checks. Not a single Republican voted for that. Not a single Republican voted for that. Not a single Republican is going to vote for this next stimulus package. So the Democrats are doing that all on their own. So if this physical infrastructure package does go to a vote tomorrow and it fails, let me know your thoughts. Do you think that's good because they satisfied the requirement that they voted on it? And Nancy Pelosi satisfied the moderate Democrats that, okay, we put it to a vote. We upheld the agreement that we voted on it, but it failed. You think that's good that they satisfied the moderate Democrats that, okay, we put it to a vote, but it failed? Is that good for the Democrats that they satisfied that requirement? Or is it bad because now we're going to have a bunch of moderate Democrats that it failed, and now they're going to say, well, no, that vote failed. I'm not voting for the stimulus package now. It's kind of a double-edged sword because if you delay that vote again, now you're going to have a bunch of moderate Democrats pissed off and saying, well, I'm not voting for the stimulus package. You keep delaying this physical infrastructure package. It's really it's a double-edged sword. And then to add on to this, now you have Senator Joe Manchin, who just literally, you can't win with this guy. Check out what he has to say now. Senator Joe Manchin says he will not support trillions of dollars in spending that ignores brutal fiscal reality. Remember that this next stimulus package and the infrastructure package are fully paid for. They're paid for by raising taxes on corporations. They're paid for raising taxes on wealthy individuals, leftover stimulus money that have already been accounted for, and forcing pharmaceutical companies to lower their prescription drug prices. That saves the US government hundreds of billions of dollars. Here we go. Joe Manchin says in a lengthy statement, a key moderate holdout on President Biden's $3.5 trillion spending bill. Joe Manchin reiterates that he opposes the proposal's cost. Biden and top Democrats are deep in negotiation with Joe Manchin in an effort to reach a compromise. It's worth noting that Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, and President Biden just met yesterday. President Biden actually canceled a trip to Chicago today as they met yesterday, and President Biden is meeting with a bunch of Democrats again today and yesterday. President Biden had trips scheduled to Chicago and around the country yesterday and today. President Biden actually just canceled his trips and is still meeting with a bunch of the Democrats over the course of yesterday and today. And President Biden is just meeting with these guys, and apparently the meeting with Joe Manchin did not go well. But the meeting with Christian Sinema actually did go well. Get to that here in a moment. Manchin argued it would be the definition of fiscal insanity to greenlight trillions of dollars in additional spending despite inflation concerns, Medicare Social Security funding shortages, and a shaky U.S. economic recovery. The West Virginian, they're missing an N there, said he had made his stance clear to the president and Democratic leaders. He says, quote, while I am hopeful that common ground can be found, that would result in another historic investment in our nation. I cannot and will not support trillions of dollars in spending or an all or nothing approach that ignores the brutal fiscal reality our nation faces. He said, there is a better way, and I believe we can find it if we are willing to continue to negotiate in good faith. Wow. He says, quote, if there is one final lesson that we will continue to guide me in this difficult debate ahead is this. America is a great nation, but great nations throughout history have been weakened by careless spending and bad policies. Wow. Now more than ever, we must work together to avoid these fatal mistakes so that we may fulfill our greatest responsibility as elected leaders and pass on a better America to the next generation. Now the question is what is Joe Manchin talking about? Is he talking about not providing to children, not providing these monthly checks to children, these child tax credits, $250 to $300 per month to children? By the way, Joe Manchin has suggested possibly not giving these checks to children to parents who aren't working. So he's suggesting to parents who are not working or disabled right now, not providing these checks to children. So if the parents are disabled or not working right now, taking the checks away from children and not feeding them. Just so you know. So why would you not provide money for children to feed them if the parents are disabled or not working? Think about that, Joe Manchin. Yeah. Or should we cut the Medicare benefits for seniors, hearing, vision, dental, hearing aid, hearing aids, dentures, or lower the Medicare eligibility age to age 60? Does he want to cut that? Does he want to cut free college as an option, 2 years of free community college? I mean, you have to at least provide that as an option. We're not talking about college to huge expensive colleges like Harvard and Yale, and colleges that are insanely expensive. We're talking about 2 years of free community college, at least offering that as an option to people that want to go to college because college is insanely expensive, right? So when you look at the things on this list here, paid family and medical leave, adult tax credits that are expected to be in there for families making under $50,000, possible fourth stimulus check, child tax credits that are going to end it this year if they don't pass this package. Those child tax credit, those monthly payments go away. They want to extend those till 2025. Child care tax credits, 2 years of free community college. Um, I mean, think about all these things that are potentially going to be in this next package. What would you have them cut, Joe Manchin? Now, keep in mind that this package of $3.5 trillion is expected to be lowered. We've had a lot of major Democrats, including Nancy Pelosi, say they're probably going to have to lower this package. It's probably going to be more like around 3 trillion or maybe even in the twos. We don't know exactly around there, but it's probably not going to come out at $3.5 trillion dollars. We've had a lot of Democrats say that it is probably going to be lower than $3.5 trillion dollars. But what would you have them cut, Joe Manchin? And meanwhile, Joe Manchin is really one of the only senators to say this. So what would you have removed? Meanwhile, on some good news, the other Maine Senator holdout, Kirsten Sinema, the meeting with the White House believes that Kirsten Sinema now supports passing the reconciliation bill for some good news. So again, as these negotiations go on, Kirsten Sinema, the White House now believes that she is in support of passing this stimulus package. So really, there's mainly now Joe Manchin. And again, this is all part of the negotiation strategy as we get really down to the main finish line here. So, out of the two senators that were really the two main issue here, Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, it looks like maybe Kirsten Sinema is now on board, and we're now down to Joe Manchin. Let me know your thoughts on Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. Do you think Joe Manchin will come on board? Remember that Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema actually did this exact same thing with the third stimulus check package. If you've been watching my show for a while, you know that those two names are very familiar from the third stimulus check package. They did the exact same thing. In fact, Joe Manchin with the third stimulus check package during the vote on the third stimulus check package, they actually took him off the Senate floor during the vote process. I can't make this stuff up, guys. It actually went in the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest vote ever. In the middle of the vote on the Senate floor, they took him off the floor, went in a room off the Senate behind closed doors and negotiated with him for it was 8 or 10 hours. And after the negotiation process, they lowered the stimulus check qualifications in the third stimulus check from for single filers from $100,000 to $80,000, and added in that $10,200 unemployment tax break provision, which actually meant if you had unemployment income it was retroactive for 2020, you actually got a unemployment tax refund or tax break that made the first $10,200 of unemployment income tax free. And for a lot of people, that meant you got an extra stimulus check or tax refund check or tax break, whatever you want to call it. It was a stimulus provision added in at the very last moment. Actually, some people consider thanks to Joe Manchin. That meant an extra several $100s to several $1,000s. We actually had a lot of people that got over $3,000 because of that stimulus provision added in at the very last moment because of Joe Manchin. But they lowered the income threshold for the stimulus checks all because of Joe Manchin. They literally had to negotiate with him on the Senate floor during the voting process. Can't make this stuff up. So, probably literally up until the last moment, they may have to do this with Joe Manchin. It's almost like he likes the attention and wants to be the center of attention. So I wouldn't be surprised up until the last moment if he's like, hey, I'm not sure how I'm going to vote. Am I going to vote yes? Am I going to vote no? I'm not sure. But ultimately, I think he'll come around and vote yes on it. I really don't think, again, I can't speak for Joe Manchin. So I don't think that they're going to have 49 votes from the Democratic senators and there's going to be one Democrat that is going to vote no. It just doesn't seem likely, but you could let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you really think there's going to be one Democratic senator that holds up the package and votes no? Because I really think that if that was the case, they would just negotiate with him and say, what do you need to make this package happen? Which they may have done on the Senate floor that day and negotiated with him and made the vote happen. And that may have been what happened on the Senate floor for the third stimulus check. He may have said, hey, listen, I don't think people making $100,000 need a third stimulus check. Let's lower it to 80,000. And then they said, okay, that sounds good to us, but let's add in this extra little provision here for compensation for unemployed people so that they don't get a huge tax bill at the very end of the day. Joe Manchin said, maybe I think that's fair. So we'll have to see. Let me know your thoughts on this. I'll keep you up to date on Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, the debt limit ceiling, the infrastructure vote, which is going to happen tomorrow, the government shutdown, which is going to happen tomorrow at midnight if they don't pass a bill, and the debt limit ceiling. Man, it's just craziness. I'll keep you up to date on everything. We'll get through this together. We're literally going to have breaking news tomorrow because there's supposed to be an infrastructure package vote tomorrow. Whether or not that's going to pass or fail or get delayed, huge news on that. And the government is going to shut down tomorrow at midnight if they can't come to an agreement on that as well. So don't miss any videos at this point. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't yet and share this video with your friends and family. There's a share button down below as well. You can click this video here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And this video is how Senator Bernie Sanders wants to add a $1,000 stimulus debit card into the next stimulus package. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.